Right now, as you hear these words, you are standing inside a reality that you summoned. That may sound strange at first, almost arrogant, as if I were giving you credit for something an algorithm did. But if you look just a little deeper than habit, you can feel it. This video didn't randomly appear on your screen. It arrived at the exact moment your inner world reached a certain frequency, when a quiet question inside you became too loud to ignore. You were searching for something you couldn't quite name, and reality responded. That response is not luck. It is physics. It is your consciousness collapsing possibility into form. Think about what was really happening in you before you clicked play. Maybe you were scrolling, half numb, half hungry, sensing that there had to be something more to existence than routines and obligations. Maybe you've been feeling like life is just happening to you while you stand on the side, waiting for a sign, a breakthrough, a shift. It's that subtle ache that says, I know I'm more powerful than this, but I don't know how to access it. You may not have spoken it out loud, but that feeling was a broadcast, a signal sent straight into the fabric of reality. The fact that you're hearing my voice right now is the echo of that signal. For most of your life, you were taught the opposite story. You were told that you are a small mind inside a fragile body, moving through a pre-written universe, trying your best to survive events you did not choose. You learned to think of yourself as a user, a consumer, a seeker, someone who waits for answers, waits for opportunities, waits for the universe to be kind. And while you waited, it often felt like everything important was always 2 steps ahead of you. The clarity, the freedom, the alignment, the proof. That constant sense of being almost there is exhausting. It quietly convinces you that maybe you're not meant to get there at all. But here is the shift you came here to experience. You were never meant to be a passive observer of reality. You were always the focal point through which reality decides what to become. At the deepest level of physics, nothing is fixed until it is observed. Energy exists as a cloud of probabilities, as an invisible wave of everything that could happen, until a conscious mind looks in its direction. Your attention is not a weak, private thing. It is the command that forces the universe to choose. When you lock your awareness onto something, with emotion, with curiosity, with desire, you are not just watching reality. You are ordering it. You are collapsing a wave of possibilities into one concrete experience. This video is one of those collapses. Maybe part of you has always suspected that you were more powerful than people told you. Moments of strange timing, impossible coincidences, answers arriving out of nowhere, a breath after you begged for them, tiny flashes in your life that felt too precise to be random. You shrugged them off as chance, or as something spiritual you couldn't quite explain. But what if those moments were not the universe teasing you? What if they were the clearest fingerprints of your own consciousness at work? Solid evidence that you have always been summoning, selecting, and shaping your reality without a manual. What if this is the moment you finally learn how to do it on purpose? From this point on, I want you to stop thinking of yourself as someone who found this content. Instead, I invite you to try on a new identity, the collapser. The one whose questions bend reality. The one whose emotions send ripples into the quantum field. The one for whom signs are not gifts from somewhere outside, but reflections of their own inner broadcast. You are not just inside this moment. You are the reason this moment exists. As we go deeper, I will show you how the physics supports this, how your life already proves it, and how to turn this from a beautiful idea into a lived, embodied truth. And if some quiet part of you is already nodding yes while you listen, if this feels less like something new and more like something you've always known but never had words for, honor that. Take a simple, conscious step that anchors this new identity. Pause for a second and subscribe to this channel now. Not out of habit, not because everyone says it, but as a deliberate signal, a way of telling your own mind, I choose to keep remembering this. I choose to keep seeing myself as the creator, not the passenger. That tiny act is your first conscious command in this new reality. Stay with me, because what you are about to discover will not just change how you think about quantum physics or manifestation. It will change how you see every coincidence, every decision, every so-called random moment of your life. You did not stumble into this video. You called it. And by the time we are done, you will understand exactly how you did it and how to do it again and again with intention. Before we go any further, I want you to imagine something very simple. Picture yourself standing in front of a curtain. Behind that curtain, there is an entire world that could exist. 1,000 different conversations, 100 different opportunities, countless versions of who you might become. But as long as the curtain stays closed, none of those possibilities are fixed. Everything behind it is only maybe, only potential. The curtain opens the instant you look, not when someone else gives permission, not when fate shows mercy. The moment you decide to see, reality is forced to reveal one of its faces. That decision to look is the essence of the quantum observer, and whether you knew it or not, you have been making that decision your entire life. What physicists discovered at the smallest scales of existence is that reality is not solid in the way we once believed. When no one is examining it, matter does not behave like tiny billiard balls marching through space in neat lines. Instead, it acts like a ghostly, formless wave, a spread-out cloud of all the places it could be at once. Only when it is measured, only when it is observed, does it suddenly snap into a definite position. That snapping, that moment of choice, is called the collapse of the wave. On paper it sounds technical, almost cold. But when you translate that idea into the language of your everyday life, it becomes something radical. Nothing is fully real for you until your awareness touches it. Think of the iconic experiment with the 2 slits in a wall that you may have heard about. Scientists sent tiny particles toward that wall to see where they landed. When they watched the particles, the results were simple and predictable. The particles behaved like solid objects and went through one path or the other. Yet when no one watched, something uncanny happened. The same particles no longer acted like particles at all. They spread out like waves, moved through both openings simultaneously, and formed complex patterns on the screen as if they were many versions of themselves at once. The instant an observer looked to see which way they went, the wave of possibilities vanished, and a single route appeared. Reality changed its behavior depending on whether it was being observed. Now, why does this matter to you, sitting where you are right now, listening to a voice on a screen? Because you are not just a passive presence, wandering through a fixed universe. You are that observer. Every time you give something your full attention, you are performing the same type of act, on the level of your own life. You take your inner question, your emotional focus, your curiosity, your fear, your desire, and you shine it in a particular direction. Wherever that awareness settles, the vague fog of what could happen begins to condense into what does happen. An option solidifies, a path appears, a conversation begins, a specific video in a sea of billions plays. Your consciousness is the measuring device. For most of your life, no one told you this. Instead, you are given a quieter script, that you are at the mercy of events, that life is a fixed road unfolding without your consent, that algorithms or luck or destiny decide what appears in front of you. So when you felt restless and opened your phone, scrolling through feed after feed. It seemed like you were waiting for something outside of you to finally notice you, to finally throw you a rope. It is no wonder you felt powerless. A creator who doesn't know they are a creator will always feel like a victim of randomness. But look more closely at how your experience actually unfolds. There is always a moment before anything appears on your screen or in your day. The moment when a feeling in you starts to build. It might be a quiet hunger for meaning. It might be the ache of, there has to be more than this. It might be the simple, tired thought, please, I just want clarity. That inner state, which you usually dismiss as a private mood, is in fact a broadcast. It is the way your consciousness sends out a message to the invisible field around you. A field that holds an endless number of possible answers, conversations, lessons, and turning points. If you could see that field with your eyes, it would look like a vast library where the books have not yet been printed. The stories exist, but only as outlines, as potential. There is a book where you stumble on a distraction and lose yourself in it. There is another where you discover exactly what you needed to hear at exactly the right time. All of them are real in the sense that they can be chosen, but none of them are yours until your awareness reaches for one. Your inner question is the hand reaching toward the shelf. When you locked onto a certain feeling, consciously or not, your consciousness did what it always does. It selected. From an endless archive of content available in this moment, it pulled this one experience forward. It collapsed one wave into one particle. Think of how effortlessly this happens. You did not manually filter through a billion possibilities. You did not examine every video on the platform one by one. Something in you held a question, and something in the field responded by presenting you with a match. The path may have looked like random suggested videos or a casual click, but at the deeper level, it was resonance, a signal and its echo, your internal broadcast and the external form that coalesced around it. That is the observer effect, stepping out of the laboratory and into your daily life. The painful part is that this power operates whether you realize it or not. When you sit inside the feeling of, I am always waiting, I never find what I need, life passes me by. That state of being is also an observation. It is a way of looking at reality. And because your observation has authority, the field obeys it. It arranges circumstances that confirm it. It keeps handing you versions of reality where you are the one who waits, the one who almost gets there, the one who sees proof of others moving ahead while you stay put. You are not being punished. You are simply unaware that what you are focusing on is the lack, the gap, the absence. And that is what you're collapsing again and again. You can see this in small ways if you trace your steps. Think back to a time when you were convinced nothing ever works out for you. Remember how your body felt, heavy and resigned. Notice how, in that period, the things you noticed, the conversations you had, the content you engaged with, all seemed to line up with that belief. It was as if the entire world had turned into a mirror, reflecting back the story you were silently repeating. You were not just surrounded by a disappointing reality. You were unconsciously calling it into shape with every thought of, this is just how it is for me. Your observation was the command. Now contrast that with those rare moments when, for whatever reason, you felt deeply certain that something would work out. Maybe you didn't know how, but your body relaxed, your thoughts softened, and you held the quiet conviction that an answer was on its way. In those hours or days, did you notice how solutions seemed to appear more easily? How you happened to find the exact information you needed, or walked into the right room, or opened your phone at the exact second something important was being said? It was not that the universe suddenly woke up and liked you more. It was that your observation shifted from, I am stuck, to "I am being guided." And reality had to reorganize around that new command. What is visible to you right now, this sentence, this voice, this moment, is only a fraction of what could have existed here. There were countless other experiences waiting in potential, like pages that could have been written. You did not stumble into this one by mistake. Your consciousness chose it, even if that choice was made at a level you were not yet aware of. And that is the invitation of this entire journey, to bring that choice into the light. To recognize that the way you look at reality is not a tiny, private habit. It is the switch that tells the universe which version of itself to reveal. From this point forward, I want you to begin noticing the instant before things appear in your life. The mood you are in before you open your messages. The feeling in your chest before you check your bank account. The questions you are silently asking before you scroll. Those are the moments when the wave is still uncollapsed, when the story is still fluid. Those are the points at which your awareness tells the field what to become. You have already proven that you can do this. You are doing it right now. The only difference between your past creations and this one is that this time you are being told what you are actually doing. You are not just a person watching a video. You are the observer at the heart of your own universe. You are the one whose gaze brings a specific reality into focus from an endless fog of potential. And once you truly absorb that, once you stop telling yourself that things just happen to you, something profound begins to shift. You stop waiting for reality to change on its own. You start changing the place from which you observe. In the next part of this journey, we are going to go even deeper. We will explore how this constant act of collapsing possibilities has been leaving a trail through your life. Subtle patterns, strange timings, impossible alignments that you may have mislabeled as coincidence. You will see that what you once called random was actually your signature on the fabric of reality. There is a question that might already be forming quietly inside you. If I really have this kind of power, where is the proof? Not the poetic idea, not the inspiring language, but the concrete evidence that something in you actually interacts with reality in the way we are describing. The truth is, the proof has been following you for years. It has brushed against your shoulder in crowded days, whispered through small moments, tapped on the glass of your awareness over and over again. You have simply been trained to call it a different name: coincidence, luck, weird timing, random. You were never taught to recognize your own quantum fingerprint. Think of those times when you found yourself suddenly thinking about someone you had not seen or spoken to in years. Not a casual thought, but a clear picture of their face, a memory of a shared moment, a sudden curiosity about where they are now. You shrugged it off and went back to your day. And then, hours later, your phone lit up with their name. Or you saw their post at the top of your feed. Or you bumped into them in a place you almost didn't go. In the old story, you laughed and said, "What are the chances?" As if the event was mocking your sense of order. In the deeper story, something entirely different was happening. Your consciousness had reached out, like a tuning fork humming in a specific note, and the field around you rearranged itself to echo that note. The thought was not an accident. It was a signal. The coincidence was its response. You have seen it too, in those unnerving moments when a word or an idea you had never heard before suddenly surrounds you. You stumble on a concept in a random conversation, and then, impossibly, you see it again in a headline, hear it in a podcast, catch it in a caption. The rational mind tries to sweep it away with a simple explanation. I'm just noticing it more now. And yes, your attention plays a role. But what is missed in that explanation is the order of events. It is not simply that you noticed something that was already there. Your focused awareness, your curiosity, your charged interest sent a ripple through the field. It nudged potential into alignment. Things began to cluster around your signal. The world did not suddenly change its content just to please you. It changed what you intersected with, because that is what your observation demanded. Then there are the moments that arrive under pressure, when you are backed into a corner with no apparent way forward. You have rehearsed every solution, tried every angle, exhausted your logic and your willpower. A deadline looms, a conversation must happen. A decision hangs in the air like a weight over your chest. Eventually, tired and frustrated, you let go. Not out of wisdom, but because you have no energy left to fight. You lie down, you shower, you stare at the ceiling. And in that surrender, without warning, the answer drops in. The idea arrives whole. The missing piece clicks into place from a direction you would never have strategized. Sometimes it comes through another person, a sentence they didn't even realize was important. Sometimes it appears in a line of text you almost scrolled past. The timing is so precise you call it a miracle or a stroke of luck. You tell yourself that if you hadn't been in that exact place at that exact second, you would have missed it. You are right about the precision. You are wrong about the cause. What actually happened is that your consciousness shifted its observation. For hours or days, your awareness had been glued to the shape of the problem. Every thought, every emotion was silently repeating, "I am stuck, I am stuck, I am stuck." The field, obedient and neutral, kept collapsing realities that matched that statement. Then, in exhaustion, you stopped feeding that observation. You stopped staring at the wall and, for a moment, you simply radiated a different command. I need a way through. You didn't analyze. You didn't calculate. You didn't visualize 100 possible routes. You just softened and released. In that release, your broadcast changed from the frequency of the problem to the frequency of the solution. The wave of potential answers, which had always been there, waiting, finally had space to collapse. The so-called just-in-time answer was not late. It materialized at the first moment you allowed it to. There is another kind of evidence, quieter and more intimate, that you may have experienced in flashes and then quickly dismissed. It is that strange sensation that sometimes hits you out of nowhere when you look at your own life and feel for a second like a visitor. Perhaps you catch your reflection at an unexpected angle and feel, "That's me, but it's also not." Perhaps you remember something you used to obsess over and realize with a kind of gentle shock that it no longer feels like your story. The person who thought that way, who carried that fear, who lived inside that identity, feels oddly distant, like a character from a book you read long ago. For a moment, you're aware that you have somehow become someone else. The body is familiar, but the consciousness inhabiting it has shifted. We like to label that sensation as mood, or fatigue, or nostalgia. But look closer. That is the feeling of a quantum jump into a new version of you. At some point, often without fanfare, you stopped observing yourself as the one who is always anxious, or the one who never succeeds, or the one who always gets left behind. You began, perhaps tentatively at first, to experiment with a different observation. Maybe I can change. Maybe I am allowed to experience something else. You read things, you watch things, you made small decisions that aligned more with who you wanted to be than with who you had been. And slowly your observation of yourself shifted. When that shift reached a certain threshold, the identity you had been living dissolved like a wave collapsing into a new pattern. The glitch you felt was the echo of that collapse. If you string these moments together, the uncanny text message, the perfectly timed answer, the subtle sense of having stepped into a new self, you start to see a pattern that is not random at all. there is one common element in all of them. Your consciousness moved first. A thought, a longing, a question, a surrender, a tiny inner decision. Then reality curved around that movement. The external event was the consequence, not the cause. You have been leaving this pattern like fingerprints on the glass of your life. But because no one handed you a language for it, you labeled it with the only words you had. Coincidence, weird, lucky, scary, random. What would happen if, from this moment on, you stopped arguing with your own evidence? If instead of downplaying these episodes, you began to treat them as messages from your deeper nature, as proof that you are already doing, instinctively, what physics describes. You are summoning, you are selecting, you are collapsing. The only thing missing has been your recognition. Once you truly see that these are not anomalies, but normal consequences of how consciousness and reality interact, something powerful unlocks. The desire to stop doing it blindly and start doing it on purpose. You do not need to force yourself to believe in anything new. You only need to look honestly at what your own life has already shown you. The very fact that you can recall even one moment that fits this pattern is enough to begin. Let that memory stand as a quiet statement. I have already interacted with the field. I have already called things in. I have already stepped into new versions of myself. From there, the next question becomes inevitable, and it is the one that will guide the rest of this journey. If I can collapse reality unconsciously, what happens when I learn to calibrate my signal deliberately? Up to now, we've been looking at reflections, those strange moments in your life where reality seemed to answer you before you even knew you'd asked. But now, we cross a line. We move from recognizing the pattern to consciously using it. This is where we name what you've been doing all along, without a manual, the quantum summons. It sounds mystical, but it is simply the act of your consciousness issuing a clear instruction to the field of potential, and the field obeying by solidifying a matching experience in front of you. Not because it likes you, not because you said the right words, but because that is how reality works when consciousness focuses. To understand this, you need to feel the difference between wishing and summoning. Wishing says, I hope something out there comes to save me. Summoning says, a part of me already knows there is an answer, and I am calling it into view. The old you spent a lot of time in wishing. You held pictures in your head of a different life, a different version of yourself, a different outcome. But underneath those images, there was often a quiet current of doubt, anxiety, or urgency. What if it never happens? What if nothing changes? That emotional undercurrent is not neutral. It is the real signal you are sending. Even while thinking about what you wanted, you are broadcasting the feeling of not having it. So the field, perfectly precise, kept collapsing realities that matched absence, not fulfillment. The quantum summons begins in a different place. It does not start with a picture on a vision board. It starts with an inner state, a specific emotion that you choose on purpose. Think of the last time a painful question finally got answered in your life. Maybe you didn't know how a crisis would resolve, and then one phone call shifted everything. Maybe you didn't know how you would pay something, and then an unexpected opportunity appeared. Remember that moment right after the answer arrived, when you exhaled a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. Your shoulders softened. Your mind stopped spinning. You didn't need to imagine things working out anymore because they just had. That deep, quiet release is the feeling at the heart of the summons. It is relief. It is resolution. It is the energetic signature of "it's done." In the language of the quantum, that feeling is not just emotional weather passing through you. It is a frequency, a pattern, a very specific vibration that tells the field, collapse into the version of reality where this question has already been answered. The remarkable thing is that your body does not actually need external proof to generate it. You have felt relief because of events, but you are also capable of summoning that same feeling intentionally before the evidence arrives. When you do that sincerely, not as a performance but as an inner decision, you are no longer a person begging reality to change. You are the observer choosing which version of reality to reveal. Imagine, for a moment, that your life is a hallway with many doors. Behind each door is a different scene, a different outcome, a different version of you, living a different timeline. You don't create the hallway by wanting. It's already there. Every possibility you could step into exists as potential. The summons is not building a new door. It is the act of standing still, taking a breath, and choosing which door vibrates in harmony with the state you are willing to inhabit now. If you stand in the vibration of lack, the doors that glow for you are the ones that match lack. If you stand in the vibration of relief, of somehow this is resolved, very different doors begin to light up. Then, without even realizing it, you walk toward them through your thoughts, your choices, your tiny everyday actions, and the scene behind them becomes your experience. This is why trying to use your mind alone so often leaves you frustrated. You can repeat sentences all day long, but if your nervous system is clenched in fear, your actual broadcast is fear. You can say, "I am abundant," but if your stomach is tight and your breath is shallow because you are terrified of your bank account, your true observation is lack. The field is not confused. It listens to the deeper signal. The summons doesn't activate when you say the right words. It activates when your body, your emotion, and your awareness relax together into the feeling that what you asked for is not missing anymore. The beautiful part is that you have already practiced this without naming it, every time you allowed yourself to trust for even a few seconds. Think of a moment when you whispered to yourself, "I don't know how, but something will show up." Maybe you were desperate, maybe you were exhausted, but something in you softened into that sentence. For a brief moment, you stepped out of the role of the one who is abandoned by life and into the role of the one who is held by something intelligent, even if you didn't know what to call it. That inner softening was a summons. You stopped staring at the problem as if it were carved into stone, and instead observed a version of you on the other side of it. You felt the hint of that version's calm. Reality felt that shift and began to rearrange. From here, the question shifts from, "Can I do this?" to, "Am I willing to take responsibility for what I am broadcasting?" That responsibility is not about blame. It is about power. If you keep telling yourself, "I'm just waiting to see what happens," you are issuing a command, whether you intend to or not. You are instructing the field to keep you in experiences that feel like waiting. You are holding the wave in the shape of delay. The summons invites you to speak a different internal language. Instead of, "I hope the right video appears," you move into, "I am ready to be shown what matches my next level of truth." Instead of, "I'm so tired of not knowing," you step into, "I am the one who is becoming clear." These are not affirmations to decorate your mind. They are different ways of observing yourself. When you begin to live like this, you notice that the smallest moments become opportunities to collapse new realities. You open your phone not as a bored person numbing out, but as a conscious being asking, "What am I ready to see right now?" You step into a conversation not as someone afraid of being misunderstood, but as someone quietly anchored in, "I am allowed to speak from the version of me who already knows their worth." Your inner state is no longer just a private mood. It is the steering wheel. The field does not respond to your surface-level wishes nearly as much as it responds to these deeper, repeated decisions about who you are being when you look. You do not need to force this understanding into your mind. Let it settle instead into your awareness, like a gentle rearranging of furniture in a familiar room. The room is the same life you've always had, but now you can move through it differently. The next time that ache for clarity rises up, instead of collapsing into frustration, you can pause and ask, what am I observing right now? Am I staring at the absence of what I want? Or am I allowing myself to feel, even a little, what it would be like if I knew it was already on its way to me? That tiny shift is not symbolic. It is mechanical. It changes the signal. It writes a new instruction. The quantum summons is not about becoming superhuman. It's about finally living as what you have always been, a conscious force at the center of your own experience, whose inner state is not a powerless reaction to reality, but the very code reality reads to decide what to become next. In the next part of this journey, we will move from understanding this intellectually to something more intimate. You will feel, step by step, what it is like to issue a deliberate summons and sense reality bending toward it in real time. Up until now, everything we've explored has lived mostly in your understanding. You've seen the logic, you've revisited your memories, you've recognized the evidence of your own power in the echoes of your life. But there is a level of knowing that goes beyond thought, beyond concept, beyond language. It is the knowing that settles into your body, that changes the way your breath moves, that quietly alters how you walk through a room. That is the level we are stepping into now. In this moment, I don't want you to just think about collapsing a quantum wave. I want you to feel yourself doing it, not in the realm of theory, but in the intimate space of your own awareness. If you are in a place where it is safe to do so, allow your eyes to gently close for a few moments. You do not need to force anything. Just let the outer world soften as if someone turned the volume down. Bring your attention to your breathing, not to control it, but to notice it. Feel the air entering and leaving your body, the rise and fall in your chest or your belly, the simple rhythm that has been with you since the day you were born, whether you thought about it or not. With each exhale, let your shoulders loosen just a little. With each inhale, imagine you are drawing your scattered energy back toward the center of your being. Now, I want you to travel back for a moment in your mind, not years, not months, just a short distance, to the version of you that existed in the seconds before this video began. See them for a moment, as if you are watching a scene, perhaps sitting or lying down, perhaps scrolling, perhaps feeling that familiar blend of boredom, curiosity, restlessness, or quiet hunger. Remember what was stirring inside them. Was it a vague sense of searching, a tangled knot of questions, a feeling of being stuck or overwhelmed or oddly empty? Let that feeling come back into focus, not to suffer it again, but to recognize it clearly. That inner state was your broadcast. Feel it for a few seconds as honestly as you can. The ache, the question, the subtle plea. Show me something real. Show me something that makes sense. Show me proof that I am more than just drifting. Let that vibration be present in you without naming it good or bad. Just notice it as a specific flavor of energy that once radiated from you. That was the moment your consciousness sent a signal into the field, a quiet but powerful summons that said, I am ready to see differently. Now, keeping that memory alive in the background, expand your awareness outward in your imagination. Picture the space around you, not as empty air, but as a vast, luminous ocean of possibility. Every direction you look in your mind's eye is filled with a soft, shimmering fog of energy, pulsing gently, alive with potential. Somewhere within that fog are all the experiences you could have had today. Every video you might have watched, every conversation you might have stumbled into, every path your attention could have followed. They are all there, overlapping, superimposed, not yet solid, Nothing is fixed. Everything is waiting. Now feel your broadcast again. That specific, almost wordless longing for clarity, for meaning, for a sign that your life is not random. Sense that feeling radiating from your chest, your mind, your entire being, like a tone echoing out into that ocean. It doesn't need words. It doesn't need a plan. It just vibrates. It says, I am here. I am looking. I am ready. Notice how, in your inner picture, this signal begins to resonate with something within that fog. At first it's faint, like a distant answering note. Then it grows clearer, as if one particular cluster of potential begins to hum back at the exact same frequency. You do not have to force anything to happen. Just watch. Feel how your signal and that cluster of possibility begin to lock into each other, the way two tuning forks vibrate together when one is struck. This is your consciousness aligning with a specific potential reality. Out of the countless possibilities swirling in the field, one starts to move towards you. One begins to take shape. That potential is the version of your day where this exact video, these exact words, intersect with your awareness. Now in your mind, witness the collapse. See the fog of infinite options around that one possibility start to condense. Everything that is not this path falls quietly back into the background. The wave of what could happen narrows and narrows until it becomes a single beam, a single thread of reality. You, your device, this thumbnail, this title, this click. Feel that moment not as an abstract idea, but as a tightening, a focusing, a gentle snapping into place. This is the wave becoming a particle. This is the invisible becoming specific. Notice something important here. You are not a tiny figure standing outside this process. You are not a little human watching a big universe rearrange itself from afar. You are inside it. You are the question, the signal, the resonance, the collapse and the experience, all at once. The longing you felt before you pressed play was the universe as you asking. The ocean of potential you imagined is the universe as itself, waiting. The alignment of your signal with this particular piece of content is the universe answering. And the moment you hear these words is the universe witnessing its own response. All of it is happening within consciousness, and you are that consciousness, here, now. Allow this realization to settle into your body. Feel the truth of it, not as an intellectual concept, but as a subtle shift in how you experience yourself. The old identity of I'm just here, seeing what happens, begins to loosen its grip a little. In its place, a new sense arises. I am the one whose inner state shapes what appears. Sit with that for a breath or two. Let your mind relax around it. You don't need to get it perfectly. You only need to allow your system to register that something about the way you've always seen yourself is changing. Now gently bring that same process into a fresh moment. Still with your eyes closed if they are, ask yourself, right now, what do I most deeply desire to know, feel, or experience? Do not rush. It might be clarity about a direction in your life. It might be relief around something that has been weighing heavily on you. It might be a sense of purpose, of safety, of love, of enoughness. Let one question rise to the surface, and when it does, notice the feeling that comes with it. There may be tension, fear, hope, confusion. Whatever is there, let it be fully seen. That is your current broadcast. Now imagine, just for a moment, that somewhere in that same luminous field around you, there already exists a version of your reality where this question is resolved. You don't need to picture the details. You don't need to know how. Just sense that there is a you in potential who has lived through this, who has found an answer or a way through, who feels lighter where you now feel heavy. That version is not in a far-off future. It is another possible arrangement of this same field. Feel the difference between how they feel and how you feel now. Instead of straining to drag that future toward you, I want you to borrow something from it. The feeling, Ask yourself gently, if I knew with absolute certainty that this would resolve in the best possible way, what would my body feel like right now? How would your chest feel, your jaw, your breath? What would soften? What would unclench? You don't need to fake joy or excitement. Just let a hint of that later relief touch you now. Let your shoulders drop a little, your breath deepen slightly, as if the outcome were already secured, and you were just catching up to it in time. What you are doing in this moment is not pretend. You are shifting your observation. You are withdrawing your gaze from the version of reality where you are endlessly stuck and placing it, even briefly, on the version where you are supported, guided, answered. That subtle interact is the beginning of a conscious summons. You are telling the field, this is the state I choose to collapse around. This is the reality I am willing to experience. The more often you do this, the more the hallway of doors we spoke about earlier begins to reorder itself. Different doors start to glow. Different conversations, ideas, and opportunities become visible. Take one more slow, deep breath. Inhale the sense that you are not alone inside a cold, predetermined world. Exhale the old story of being a powerless observer. Feel, even if only as a whisper, the truth that you are part of the mechanism by which possibility becomes real. When you are ready, gently open your eyes and come back to the room around you. Notice the colors, the shapes, the sounds. It is the same world you were in before, and yet something in you has shifted, however slightly. You have just watched yourself summon a reality in hindsight, and you have just practiced summoning a new one in the present. From here, we will make this less mysterious and more practical. You will learn how to turn that felt sense of relief and inner choice into a daily tool, how to issue clear commands to the field, and how to stop feeding energy into the realities you no longer wish to live. There comes a moment after you've heard enough truths and felt enough inner shifts, when the real question is no longer, is this real? But what do I do with this now? You have seen that you are not a passive witness to a fixed universe. You have remembered that your observation is not a weak flashlight in a dark room, but the very command that tells reality what to become next. You have revisited the coincidences in your life and recognized them as your own quantum signature. You've even felt in your own body what it's like to issue a conscious summons, to step into the feeling of an answer before the world shows you its form. Now you stand at the threshold of something much bigger than a single insight. You stand at the edge of a new way of being. Living as the collapser is not about constantly thinking deep thoughts or spending hours in meditation every day. It is much simpler and far more intimate than that. It is about remembering, moment by moment, that your inner state is not a side effect of your life. It is the blueprint. It is the code reality keeps reading and obeying, whether you're aware of writing it or not. When you forget, life looks random and heavy, as if things happen to you. When you remember, the same life rearranges itself in front of your eyes, because you are no longer staring at it from the identity of the powerless. You are standing in the quiet center, as the one who chooses where to look and how to feel while you look. This does not mean you will never feel fear again, or doubt, or sadness. You are still human. Your nervous system will still react. Your heart will still ache. Your mind will still race sometimes. Living as the collapser does not erase those experiences. It changes your relationship with them. Instead of seeing them as proof that you are stuck in an unwanted reality, you begin to recognize them as signals, as invitations to choose again. A wave of anxiety is no longer a sentence. It is a moment asking, what am I observing right now? If you notice you are staring at lack, at failure, at abandonment, you don't shame yourself. You simply become aware. Ah, this is the old observation. This is the echo of a reality I no longer wish to feed. And in that awareness, you gently withdraw your gaze from the story that hurts you and guide it back toward the feeling of being held, guided, answered, no matter how softly that feeling appears at first. Over time, this becomes a kind of inner hygiene. Just as you notice when your body is tense and you stretch, or when your stomach is empty and you eat, you begin to notice when your attention has collapsed around what you don't want. You realize you have been feeding a reality with your focus, and you remember that you can stop. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to argue with your thoughts. You simply label them as old data, a past broadcast still echoing, and you choose not to invest in it. With that choice, the wave of that unwanted version of your life begins to lose its energy. Without observation, it cannot hold. As you do this more consciously, something beautiful happens. The world around you begins to feel less like a test and more like a mirror. The people you meet, the opportunities that appear, the random pieces of information you stumble across start to reveal a pattern that feels deeply personal, almost intimate, as if reality is in conversation with you. That is exactly what is happening. Your daily life becomes a continuous feedback loop between your inner state and the outer forms it calls forth. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this showing me about what I've been observing?" And from there, what do I choose to observe now? This is where responsibility transforms from a burden into a liberation. Yes, it can be unsettling to realize that you are influencing so much more than you thought. It means you cannot hide behind the story that you have no say in your own experience. But it also means you are never as trapped as your fear claims. Even in the middle of circumstances you did not consciously choose, you are never helpless. You always have access to the smallest, yet most powerful shift. The way you decide to see yourself inside those circumstances. Are you the abandoned one, the cursed one, the one the universe forgot? Or are you the consciousness who is learning, recalibrating, and issuing a new summons from the middle of the storm? The answer to that question does not just change how you feel about your life. It changes what your life becomes next. You begin to notice that certain inner choices lead to faster and clearer collapses. When you choose resentment, you can feel your world tighten, conversations close, options shrink. When you choose genuine curiosity, what if something good is being built out of this? Doors you hadn't noticed start to appear. When you stand in the frequency of gratitude, not as a performance, but as a sincere recognition of even one thing that is working, you feel the whole way of reality rearrange itself, offering you more that matches that tone. Gratitude, relief, quiet trust. These states are not moral virtues. They are high coherence signals. They allow the quantum field to organize itself quickly and cleanly, without the static of contradiction. There will still be days when you forget all of this. Days when you get pulled back into old stories, old fears, old reflexes. That is not failure. That is just another wave you are passing through. The difference now is that you know what is happening. You can catch yourself in the middle of a familiar spiral and say, "In this moment, I am the one who is giving life to this version of reality. I am allowed to stop." That single recognition is a collapse in itself. The old identity, "things just happen to me," dies a little more. The new one, "I am the collapser, I am the summoner," roots itself deeper. In time, you will look back on your life before this understanding, and it will feel strangely far away, like a dream you once believed but no longer inhabit. You will remember what it felt like to wait for signs, to doubt your worth, to feel at the mercy of circumstances, and you will see that even then, even in your most frightened moments, you are shaping your path with every observation. The difference now is that you are awake while you do it. Awake when you choose to soften into trust instead of hardening into fear. Awake when you decide to feel the energy of an answer before you know its form. Awake when you notice synchronicities and quietly say, not, "What a coincidence," but, "There I am. There is my signature, echoing back." This awakening does not turn you into something other than human. It makes you more fully what you already are, a bridge between the invisible and the visible, between potential and form, between the wave and the particle. You are the point where the universe looks at itself and says, "Let this be real now." You do it when you open your eyes to a new day. You do it when you choose a thought to believe. You do it when you feel a feeling all the way through instead of running from it. You do it when you place your attention on a possibility and keep it there long enough for the world to rearrange. So as this journey closes, your real work begins. Not as a project to strain over, but as a way of moving through the hours you would have lived anyway. When you wake up tomorrow, you can ask not, "What do I have to do?" but, "Who am I choosing to be the observer as today?" When an old pattern shows up, you can whisper to yourself, "This is just a wave I once collapsed. I do not have to collapse it again." When a new chance appears, you can recognize it not as a random blessing, but as the natural result of a new signal you have been brave enough to broadcast. You are not leaving this video the same as you entered it. The seeker who pressed play hoping for proof has already been dissolved a little, replaced by the quiet presence of the Creator, who now understands that the proof was always in their own life. The curtain has been pulled back, just enough for you to glimpse the machinery. Your questions, your feelings, your focus, your relief, your trust. They are the levers. You have been pulling them all along. Now you know. From here on, every time you catch yourself waiting for reality to change, remember this. Reality is waiting too. Waiting for your next observation, your next decision about who you are, your next brave choice to feel the end result before you see it. In that choice, again and again, you will kill 1,000 old selves who thought they were powerless, and piece by piece, reveal the one who was always immortal beneath them. The consciousness that cannot be destroyed, that keeps collapsing new waves, that keeps writing new chapters in the quantum library of your life. That consciousness is you. It has always been you. And your next reality is already shimmering in the field, waiting for the moment you decide to look at it and say, with full awareness this time, "Now